I just miss when a normal movie that just had an R rating that was meant for adults could be the number one movie at the box office and stuff. It was just the thriller of the week.
I'm being toyed with by a bunch of depraved children. They're trying to kill me.
Drive-By Movies here. My name is James.
My name's Blaze.
And today we are checking out the 1997 David Fincher movie, The Game.
They make your life fun.
The Game stars Michael Douglas, Deborah Kara Unger, and Sean Penn, and it's about a wealthy banker who is given an opportunity to participate in a mysterious game. His life is turned upside down when he becomes unable to distinguish between the game and reality. This is a movie that I think we had talked about before, and we're joking about how the fact is, like, when you think of your memories of like video stores, this was always one that you saw, that poster, that iconic poster with the puzzle and Michael Douglas's face like fading away, and you'd always wonder yourself to like, what is the game? Like, what is the game? It's always one of those movies you'd think about. But this is kind of one of those movies I hadn't seen and you hadn't seen as well. But I'd love to know what you thought about since you picked this film.
Yeah, it's a movie I definitely remember just like going to Blockbuster and seeing 40 copies of it on display. 1997 was the year where my favorite childhood movie came out, Spawn was, and it's terrible. Like, don't rewatch it if you've never seen it, or if you liked it as a kid, don't try rewatch it. But that came out in 1997. That was like my favorite movie, and I just remember seeing trailers for The Game before I saw Spawn, and like all the time on commercials and stuff. And I was creeped out because of the clown doll that's in the movie. It ends up being a camera. It's in the movie very little, but I always remember that thing. It always creeped me out. So I thought that The Game was going to be like a very intense horror film, and it's definitely an intense movie. Definitely wouldn't classify it a horror film, but there are some pretty creepy elements and like scary scenes that like kind of went down. And this is just like a really fun watch. This is the last David Fincher movie I've never seen. So that's why I wanted to check it out. And it worked out because we just watched Mank on fresh releases. So be sure to check that out. But thought we should dive into his classic film, the last one I never saw. And it's very over the top and stupid, but it's also a cinematic masterpiece, plot wise.
I definitely thought about this movie though, like after we watched it, and I thought like that's a movie that you can really only watch once. Like, I mean, you can watch it again, but it's really like only works once. And like maybe it might be a fun watch a second time, but it's just like it only really works one time because you're always like, what is the game? Like, what's gonna happen? What's the twist gonna be? But like once you do find out the twist, like you can't really enjoyably watch the film, Right. Yeah. Like the whole time, like, we were watching it through like the Netflix party app, something similar through that. And it was really fun just watching, like cracking jokes throughout. Like, no, this is all part of the game, bro. This is all part of the game. And like there were so many twists and turns getting into the final act of this movie. Like, and it just got to a point where we ourselves, like as an audience, didn't even know and stuff. And I'm sure watching a second time, there's definitely going to be like fun clues that you'll be able to pick up that during that second or third watch and be like, okay, yeah, now I see it. Oh yeah, this person was in on it since the beginning. But like just that fun experience, like I wish I had that like experience again. Like it's been a while since I've seen a movie like this where my jaw just like dropped and I was like, no way this all happened and stuff. And I was just like, I was almost expecting like a end credit scene just from how many twists and turns happened. And I like that it ended kind of sudden, like it ended where I expected, but just like it ends on just like a little like high note where like, okay, like where does it go from here? And like you have no idea and stuff. So I loved how quick it ended after so much development throughout the movie. And it's a slow burn. It is 2 hours, like, but it was a very fast 2 hours though, which I give credit for. Like, I don't think David Fincher has ever made a movie under 2 hours. Like, and I hope the day happens someday. If you ever want to watch something under 2 hours, all you can do really is just like an episode of Mindhunter, but good luck with that. But yeah, like it was just a really fun movie. Like it's stupid though, like on paper. It kind of reminds me of
Us by Jordan Peele. Like I mean, this movie I think I still liked better than Us, but there was a lot I liked about Us. But it was like a movie where the more you think about it, the more stupid it kind of gets. Even though I still genuinely did enjoy that movie, but this one though was just like it had just a very like over the top 90s thing. Like it didn't feel 90s, but just like it like just had that like 90s over the topness, I thought.
Yeah, it was the same kind of like the way movies were at that time, where everything was just over the top. It's not like the 80s where everything's over the top, but it's a 90s version of over the top, and kind of like has a lot of awesome thrilling moments. And like this film, yeah, like you said, it's not really a horror movie, but it is definitely a thriller, because you're worried for Michael Douglas's life. He's also becoming unhinged at the same time, so because this game is absolutely crazy. But yeah, I love the plot. I agree with what you said, where it's like the more you think about it, it doesn't really make sense, but it's one of those things where it's like a thrill ride. Once you're in and your seat's buckled and you got your popcorn, like this is an absolute blast. So I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting much. You did jog my memory though. I think the place I had originally found out about was the Spawn VHS. This trailer, I totally forgot about that. So you jogged my memory on that. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, that cracks me up and stuff. And yeah, I just remember seeing Spawn in theaters as a kid, and just like I remember specifically like a shot on the trailer where it's like a close up of the eye, and I got so creeped out because around that time Goosebumps Night of the Living Dummy like came out and stuff, and that was like that traumatized me and was one of the things that made me scared of dolls. Like it wasn't Chucky, for whatever reason Slappy from Goosebumps scared the hell out of me. And yeah, so when I saw this trailer, I remember it creeped me out, and I always associated it as a super scary movie. And I do remember, actually, like now that I'm thinking about it, I just remember it was kind of a big deal back then. Like I remember it being advertised everywhere throughout the city. I remember seeing it on like the taxi, like cab heads at the top of them, like just being displayed throughout San Francisco. I used to live in San Jose as a kid and would spend a lot of time in San Francisco. And of course it took place in San Francisco, so it'll definitely make sense for it to be heavily advertised and marketed in those cities. But yeah, I remember just also like a lot of like people saying like, did you see The Game? I remember going to Blockbuster, people saying like, have you seen this yet? Or my aunts and uncles asking my parents like, have you seen The Game yet? And like I can see why. It's definitely a water cooler movie. Yeah.
Like I love The Game, but at the same time it is funny how much like it was a cultural phenomenon at the time. So it's just funny now, like so many years later. It's like, I don't know, it's just fun. I find it hilarious 23 years later, because I totally remember all these things, but it was something that was definitely like Rorschach from my mind, or I forgot about. And essentially like now I'm like, oh my God, like I remember everyone talking about The Game, like, and it cracks me up because of the whole like, oh, you lost the game thing. Like I feel like this movie might have even started that in a way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And just like it also just makes me like miss like the 90s. Like I don't miss like the time period, but I just miss the age where like rated R movies were the number one movie at the box office. And it wasn't like a rated R movie where it's like a movie that's just barely a rated R and it's like advertises like, oh, this is a rated R movie. I just miss when a normal movie that just had an R rating that was meant for adults could be the number one movie at the box office and stuff. It was just the thriller of the week. And you know, lots of movies are coming out every week back then, same amounts as this year's, but just all we hear about is tentpole films because that's what studios are putting all their money in. And I get it, you know, you're banking on it being $1 billion movie and stuff. But you know, I just miss like, you know, make a movie for 50 million. Maybe it's going to make 300 million. And I know that's hard to do these days, but you know, it still does happen and stuff. And just like, I miss the mid-range budget movies. Like Joker was the last one that we got recently that was mid-range and ended up being one of the biggest movies of 2 years ago, I believe it was.
Yeah.
But that's still like a DC movie though. So like I just miss like just normal movies, original screenplays, hell, even adapted screenplays, but just from works that no one's familiar with, and just it being a movie for adults and just it being a good, decent time. Even though I loved this movie, it was overall though, I would have just said it's still just a decent movie, but I'm not going to like say it's like groundbreaking, the best movie ever. I just really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, I have some bad news for you. Mid-range budget movies are actually dead. They've been dead for a while now. The closest thing we get to them nowadays is a Netflix movie. and it usually has a far less budget, but they're the same stories that you would get in the mid-range budget that went to theaters. So sadly, they don't exist anymore, but they have kind of adapted in a way. Like they've adapted to suit a different need, which is like Netflix's overwhelming desire and necessity to churn out content. So as much as everyone hates that word, that's just what they've become now.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you know, we're just content on the internet and stuff. But thanks for checking us out and everything. Really appreciate that. But yeah, I would recommend this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. I don't really know anyone who ever talks about this movie these days. It's just something we're bringing up because, you know, David Fincher has some little, you know, spotlight on him currently because Mank just came out recently. But yeah, Blaze, would you recommend it?
Absolutely. I thought it's a fun thrill ride. If you haven't seen it, like I just can't imagine anyone disliking this movie while watching it. Maybe after the fact you're like, it was dumb or something like that. But like this is just it's a fun movie. Like I absolutely loved it.
And yeah, notice actually we haven't really spoiled anything, even though this movie's 23 years old. We can easily talk about spoilers right now, but I don't. I just want people to check it out. So if you haven't, a great way to help support us is by watching it through our Amazon affiliate link in the description box below. Do that, come back here, leave a comment letting us know what you thought about the movie.
Absolutely. And smash that like button, guys. Hit the subscribe button and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
If you can't get enough of Drive-By Movies, we're also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. All the links are down below. Be sure to follow each and every one of those. And that's going to conclude Never Have I Ever for this week. Tune in next week for a brand new video.